Commander Reel stood quietly at Dock 94, staring at the ship in front of him. It looked strange, sleek, almost alive, with glowing blue lines running across its silver surface. This wasn't a human ship. This was Veari-made. And according to his orders, he was going to fly it. He held the tablet in his hand and double-checked the assignment. No mistake. One human pilot was to assist one Veari navigator on a classified long-range mission. No backup crew, no support. Reel sighed and walked up the ramp. As he entered, the doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. The ship was quiet, too quiet. His boots made a soft sound against the floor as he stepped inside. That's when he saw her. She stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed, a playful smile on her lips. Tall, elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly like moonlight. Her long silver hair fell over her shoulders, and her eyes glowed with a soft purple light. "You must be Commander Reel," she said, voice smooth and calm. "I'm Solari, your navigator and roommate, I suppose." Reel raised an eyebrow. "Roommate?" Solari chuckled. "It's just the two of us here," she said, then slowly walked to a nearby door. With a small touch, the door slid open. "This is your room. Right next to mine." She turned, smirked, and added, "Unless you prefer to share." Then the door slid shut behind her. Reel blinked, unsure how to respond. Was she serious? Or was this just the way Veari talked? He dropped his bag on the bed and looked around. Everything inside was neat, clean, and clearly designed by someone who liked beauty. But there were no photos, no logs, no signs of a crew that had been here before. He sat down and opened his datapad. No updates, no warnings, just one line. Observe, cooperate, report only if necessary. He frowned. What exactly was this mission? Later, in the dining hall, which looked more like a glowing garden than a place to eat, he found Solari seated at a table. Her eyes followed him closely. "Do all humans sit so stiffly?" she asked. Reel didn't answer. He focused on the food. Instead, small glowing cubes and something that looked like clear soup. It tasted sweet, almost like fruit. "I've worked with humans before," Solari said, leaning her chin on her hand. "But you're different. How so?" He asked. "You're quiet, observant. The others talk too much, tried too hard. I'm here to fly, not make friends." She smiled again, amused. "We'll see." That night, Reel couldn't sleep. The ship hummed softly, and he felt like it was watching him. He got up and walked toward the bridge, hoping to check the systems. But as he passed the main hallway, he noticed something strange. A door marked crew storage was locked. When he tapped the panel, it asked for a Veari code. Odd. Why would a two-person ship have storage for a crew? Reel made a note and moved on. On the bridge, everything looked normal. Course set, engines charged. But one log entry caught his eye. A security file labeled Incident 37 had been deleted just 3 days ago. He tried to recover it, but the file was corrupted. Only one fragment remained. A voice, faint and broken. "Do not trust the navigator." "She's not, then." Silence. Reel sat back, heart beating faster. What was this? The next morning, Solari met him at the bridge. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, but Reel noticed something new. Her hands, they were shaking just slightly. "Bad dreams?" she asked, as if she knew he'd been up. Reel stayed calm. "You tell me, anything strange on this ship I should know about?" She tilted her head. "Strange? No, but you humans fear what you don't understand." "Maybe, but I also know when something's off." Solari stepped closer. Her voice softened. "Then you must feel it too, don't you? That we're not alone here." She reached past him and locked the door to the bridge. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "If you want to survive, stay close to me, and don't open any doors you don't understand." Reel didn't move. He realized something important in that moment. He was already deep. Inside something dangerous. And it was just the beginning. Asterisk. The ship floated through deep space like a ghost. No other vessels nearby. No planets in sight. Just black silence, broken only by the gentle hum of the engines. Commander Reel sat on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He thought better when he was quiet. But tonight he wasn't alone. Solari approached softly, her steps nearly silent. She wore a flowing robe, dark blue with glowing threads woven into the fabric. It moved like liquid light. You like silence, don't you? She asked, standing beside him. It helps me think, Reel replied without looking at her. What are you thinking about? She asked, sitting down. Her tail, barely visible before, now swayed slowly beneath her robe, a trait common to the Veyari species. He hesitated, then said, Why I was really assigned here. Solari tilted her head. Maybe fate, maybe luck, or maybe someone wanted to see what would happen between us. Her eyes glinted, half teasing, half serious. Reel turned toward her. What exactly are we doing here, Solari? This ship, this mission. It doesn't feel like a scouting trip. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, and asked softly, Can I ask you something personal, human? He nodded once. Do humans feel lonely, even when they're with someone? That question surprised him. Sometimes, he said. Yes, we're similar then, she whispered. The Veyari are never truly alone. Our minds are always linked. But me, I was born different, quiet. My thoughts stayed mine. Reel noticed the sadness under her voice. And they saw you as broken? No, she said with a cold smile. They saw me as useful. Before he could ask what that meant, she changed the subject. Tell me about human love. What does it feel like? He narrowed his eyes. Why do you want to know that? Solari looked away, because your kind loves even when it hurts. Even when it's foolish, and somehow you survive it. I've read stories, humans jumping into fire for someone they just met. He nodded. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we regret it. She turned to him again, eyes glowing gently. Would you do that for someone like me? Reel didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked to the nearby panel. The system logs were still showing strange entries. Glitches, misaligned data. It didn't look like random noise, more like someone had tried to hide something. Solari watched him, still searching for ghosts. I found something last night, he said. A deleted voice log. It said not to trust you. Her expression didn't change. And do you? Not yet, he said calmly. But I'm still here. Solari smiled, slow and warm. That's something. Just then, the lights dimmed. A soft vibration passed through the floor. Not engine noise, something different. Deeper, like movement. Reel grabbed the edge of the console. What was that? Solari stood up, face serious now. It's below us. It? What's below us? She hesitated. There was another passenger. But they weren't stable. I put them into containment. Reel stepped back. You said it was just us. It was, she said quietly. Until it woke up. He stared at her, anger rising. You lied. I protected you, she said firmly. You wouldn't have stayed otherwise. He turned to leave, but she stepped in front of the door and locked it with a wave of her hand. Don't go down there alone. It feeds on fear. It knows how to twist your mind. It already knows you're here. What is it? My brother, she whispered. For a moment, the silence returned. Heavy, cold. Then she added, he was exposed to a neural virus during deep space scans. It changed him. He stopped being Veyari. Reel stared at her, his voice low. You should have told me. You're right, she said. But I needed time to see if you could handle it. I needed to be sure. Sure of what? That you'd choose me, she said softly, when everything starts falling apart. Real looked at her for a long moment, then asked, "Why me?" "Because you're human," she said. "You still care, even when you're afraid." She stepped closer and touched his hand, gently. "You don't have to trust me yet, but you will." Before he could answer, the deck shook again, stronger this time. Alarms flashed silently, pulsing red. Something had escaped below. Solari's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's loose. We're out of time." The hallway lights flickered again. A deep rumble echoed from below the deck, like something heavy shifting slowly in the dark. Real stood completely still, staring at the sealed elevator panel. The ship wasn't just creaking, it was warning them. Solari pressed her fingers to the control pad. "We need to seal off Deck 4. That's where the biochambers are." "You mean where your brother is?" Real asked. She flinched, just slightly. "Not anymore." The system beeped. Too late. The bulkhead doors below had already unlocked. Something or someone had overridden her commands. "I didn't open those," she whispered. Real didn't wait. "We need to find weapons." "There aren't any," Solari said, following him quickly. This was supposed to be a peaceful pairing mission. Emotional study, not combat. Real spun around. "Pairing, you mean?" This was all a test? She didn't deny it. "Our leaders wanted to test compatibility. See if a human and a Ve'ari could truly work as one. Mind, body, trust. That's why we were sent alone." "And your brother?" Real snapped. "He volunteered for an earlier test, but something changed him." They reached a panel marked Restricted Access. Real hacked it using the tablet the fleet had given him. Something told him it had more power than he first realized. The lock popped open. The door slid back with a sigh. Cold air rushed out. Inside was a long hallway, dimly lit and lined with strange organic walls, soft and pulsing slightly, like muscle tissue. Solari noticed his stare. This part of the ship was grown, not built, she explained. It adjusts to the emotional states of the crew. "Then it must be feeling terrified," Real muttered. They passed several empty rooms, until one made him stop. A shattered stasis pod. Glass scattered across the floor, twisted open like something had clawed its way out. The inside was stained with a strange dark fluid. Not quite blood, but close. Above the pod was a label in Ve'ari script. Solari translated softly. "Subject 7. Vake. Status. Corrupted." A deep growl echoed from somewhere far below. Real moved ahead cautiously. They found another room, this one filled with humming machines and glowing canisters. Inside were more stasis pods, but these weren't shattered. 3 still held Ve'ari crew, unconscious, breathing slowly. "Why didn't you wake them?" he asked. "I tried," she said, voice tight. "But Vake locked the system before I could stop him. He wanted me alone with you." Real stepped back, alarmed. "Why?" She looked at him, her eyes dark. "Because he believed humans were a threat, that we'd infect our people with your emotions. Compassion, freedom. He wanted to prove you'd fail, abandon me, betray me, or panic. And if I passed, then he'd destroy the ship anyway, to prove he was right." The lights flickered again. A sharp clang rang through the walls. Something was moving through the vents, fast, scraping metal as it crawled. Real grabbed Solari's arm. "We can't stay here." They ran down twisting halls, past locked chambers and humming alien machines. The walls seemed to pulse faster. Now, as if the ship itself felt fear, they stopped in front of another sealed door. This one had no label, only a blank surface. But when Real pressed his hand to it, it slid open. Inside was a circular room, completely white, lit from below. In the center was a strange device, part organic, part mechanical, shaped like a spine with wires extending out in every direction. Solari gasped. "This is the nerve core. What does it do?" "It connects the emotional states of the crew to the ship's systems. It reads fear, pain, even love, and reacts. Real stared at the wires. That's why the ship's acting strange. It's feeling what we feel. A loud hiss came from the wall above them, and a panel slammed open. Vake dropped into the room. He was once Vayari, but no more. His skin had darkened to black and gray, stretched tight. His eyes were pure white, glowing with unnatural energy. Claws extended from his fingers, and his body moved with a twisted grace. "You brought him here?" Real shouted. "I didn't." Solari cried. "It's the ship. It sensed him near us and opened the way." Vake snarled, stepping closer. His voice was broken, hollow. "You disappoint me, sister. Still clinging to weakness. Still trusting the human." Real stepped forward, keeping his eyes on the creature. "She didn't trust me. She watched me, measured me. She chose to tell the truth, not because she was weak, but because she's stronger than you'll ever be." Vake lunged. Real tackled Solari out of the way as the claws swiped across the air, slicing sparks from the walls. They crashed into the floor, the ship groaning around them. Solari reached for a control node. "Hold him off, I can trigger." A shutdown signal. Real didn't hesitate. He stood, fists clenched, and faced the corrupted alien. "Come on, Vake," he said. "Let's see what scares you." Asterisk, the room pulsed with red light, as if the ship itself had entered panic mode. Vake's growl echoed like thunder as he circled the edge of the nerve core chamber. His white eyes locked on Real, unblinking. Real took a slow breath. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but instincts and anger. Vake crouched low, claws scraping against the floor. "You think courage will save you, human?" "No," Real said calmly. "But maybe time will." Behind him, Solari's hands flew across the control node. Her face was pale, her fingers shaking, but her voice was steady. "The neural system is still linked to Vake. If I can weaken the connection, I might be able to trigger a reset." Vake lunged again. Real dodged barely. Sparks shot out from a wall panel as claws tore into the nerve cables. The ship groaned again, louder this time, as if it were screaming in pain. "You're killing the ship," Solari shouted. Vake's voice was deeper now, almost like two voices speaking at once. "This ship is a mistake. You are a mistake, and the human he is a virus." Real didn't reply. He grabbed a metal bar that had fallen from the wall and used it to block Vake's next strike. The force nearly knocked him off his feet. Vake was stronger than he looked. "Just stall him," Solari yelled. "I'm trying." Real grunted. The creature lunged again, and Real jabbed the bar into Vake's side. A dark liquid oozed out, but the thing barely flinched. It just smiled, twisted and cruel. "You fight well," Vake hissed, "but you won't save her." Real's grip tightened. "You don't know humans very well." Vake leapt again, but this time, the floor beneath him sparked with energy. Blue tendrils of light wrapped around his legs, holding him for just a second. "Now!" Real shouted. Solari pressed the final command. A loud burst of sound echoed through the room, not like a weapon, but like a scream inside the mind. Vake stumbled, his claws twitching. He clutched his head and fell to one knee. "I linked his neural feed to the ship's raw emotional archive," Solari said, panting. "It's feeding him our pain, our confusion, our fear, all at once." Vake roared in agony, but then something strange happened. He started laughing. "Fools," he growled. "This pain, this chaos, you think it weakens me? It made me what I am." He surged forward with a burst of strength, knocking Real against the wall. Real fell hard, vision swimming. He tasted blood in his mouth. Vake moved toward Solari. She backed away, fear in her eyes for the first time. "You were my brother." "I still am," Vake said, "and I'm freeing you." From behind him, a broken voice rose. "Real, no," he said, dragging himself to his feet, holding the broken bar like a sword. You're not her brother anymore." He looked to Solari. "End the game." She met his eyes and nodded. She reached into her robes and pulled out a small silver disc, a neural breaker, something banned in most systems. "This will wipe his connection permanently," she said, "but it'll damage the ship." Reel said, "Then we'll have to trust it survives, just like us." She threw the disc. It attached to the back of Vake's neck and flashed white. Vake screamed, not with rage, but with something deeper: pain, regret, loss. His body spasmed. His eyes dimmed. Then, with a shudder, he collapsed. Silence filled the room again. The lights turned blue. The floor stopped vibrating. The ship calmed. Reel fell to one knee, gasping. Solari rushed to him, helping him sit against the wall. Her hands were cold, but gentle. "You okay?" she asked softly. "I've had better days," he muttered. They sat together for a moment, breathing, listening to the soft hum of the now stable nerve core. "He was trying to prove I would fail," Reel said. "That I'd panic, betray you, or run," Solari nodded. "But you didn't." "No," he said, "because you gave me the truth." Solari looked at him, and for the first time she looked uncertain. "This was never supposed to become real. You were meant to be a subject, a temporary partner. But now, you saved my life." "I wasn't assigned to save you," Reel said. "But I chose to." Solari touched his hand. "Then that means something to my people. It means everything." The nerve core flickered. A quiet female voice came from the ship's system. "Warning. Neural bonds recalibrated. Emotional sync at 72%. Vayari-human pairing stable." Reel stared at the ceiling. "What does that mean?" Solari smiled slowly. "It means the ship believes we belong together." His eyes narrowed. "I'm still not sharing a room." She laughed, the first real laugh he'd heard from her. "We'll see, human, we'll see." The ship floated in silence again. But it was a different silence, heavier, unsettled. The lights had steadied, the systems calmed, and Vake's broken body had been locked in a containment pod deep in the lower deck. Still something didn't feel right. Commander Reel stood alone on the observation deck, arms crossed, watching stars slide past the glass. His ribs ached, and the cuts on his arms were starting to sting more now. But the real pain sacked deeper, behind his eyes, inside his thoughts. Solari entered quietly, her long robe fluttering behind her like soft wind. She didn't speak right away, just stood next to him. Her reflection shimmered beside his in the glass. "Ship says the core's stable again," she said gently. He nodded, not looking at her. "Good. I know that look," she added after a pause. "What look?" "The one where your mind's louder than your voice." Reel gave a dry chuckle. "You should have been a psychologist." Solari smiled slightly. "Vayari don't believe in labels. Only roles we grow into." He finally turned toward her. "So what role do you think I'm growing into?" She stepped a little closer. "The one I hoped for, but didn't believe in." Before he could ask more, a sudden jolt shook the ship. A sharp alarm buzzed, not loud, but urgent. They both turned toward the wall panel as flashing red symbols lit up. "Proximity alert?" Reel said, moving quickly. Solari touched the screen. Her expression darkened. "Something's following us." They reached the command bridge in seconds. The display showed a shadow, no signature, no broadcast ID, just a slow, silent trail behind them, like a predator stalking its prey. "It's using stealth tech," Reel said. "That's military grade." Solari's voice grew tight. "It's Vayari. I know that ship." "You mean it's yours?" "No," she said. "It's theirs. The Watchers. The ones who monitor our pairing missions. If something goes wrong, they erase it," Reel finished grimly. The display changed. A transmission came through, heavily encrypted, but it played anyway. A cold, metallic voice. "Subject Vake confirmed compromised. Human influence detected. Ship integrity questionable. Prepare for sterilization protocol. Reel turned to her, voice low. They're going to destroy us, Solari nodded, her face pale. To them, we're both broken now. Vake turned feral. And I chose a human. Then we don't run, Reel said. We fight. You're suggesting we take on a Vayari shadow ship with a damaged crew and one working nerve core? Exactly, she blinked. You're insane. Humans are good at that, he said with a sharp grin. They went to work. Reel rerouted power to the lower turrets while Solari accessed the hidden layers of the ship's II levels. Only a bonded navigator could control Dot in the belly of the vessel. A soft hum grew louder, as if the ship itself was waking up. I've connected to the ship's emotion sync, Solari said. It'll amplify our intent, guide systems with what we feel. So you better feel brave, Reel muttered. The lights dimmed. A voice echoed softly from the walls. Pairing confirmed. Defensive protocol unlocked. Outside the ship, thin blue beams flared along the hull, wrapping it in a veil of shifting light. The hunter behind them reacted, its weapons powering up. They're charging a compression torpedo, Solari warned. One hit and we're space dust. Reel didn't blink. Then don't let us get hit. They launched into a spin, using gravity tricks only a human pilot could pull off. The enemy ship chased close, but Reel wove through debris fields like a thread through a needle. They're faster, Solari shouted. But we're sharper. She pushed more in motion through the sync link. Calm, control, focus. The ship responded, bending light, vanishing from sensors for brief moments. Reel shouted, now! Give me something they won't expect. Solari slammed a hand onto the console. The nerve core pulsed Dot suddenly. The back panel of the ship exploded open, not in destruction, but in release. Dozens of decoy beacons fired every direction, each mimicking the ship's emotional trail. The hunter ship hesitated, its sensors overwhelmed. Reel spun them around, charging straight toward the hunter's underbelly. They won't expect. This, he whispered. The ship roared past the enemy and released a focused energy burst straight into its engine bay. A bright flash, then silence. The hunter ship went dark, spinning, dead in space. Reel leaned back, breath shaking. Did we just win? Solari smiled, not with triumph, but relief. We didn't run, we chose each other. The ship's softy eye voice chimed again. Emotional sync reached 93%. Compatibility confirmed. Recommend permanent pairing. Reel blinked. Permanent what? Solari laughed softly. To the ship we're already bonded. Mind, spirit, and everything else. He looked at her, truly looked at her. Is that what you want? She stepped closer, her fingers gently touching his arm. I didn't want this at first, but now I do. The stars spun slowly outside the window. Two souls alone in space, no longer strangers. Asterisk, a soft white glow bathed the command bridge as the ship floated quietly, far from any star. The hunter vessel behind them was now nothing more than a lifeless shell, drifting in the void. But Commander Reel didn't relax. He stood in silence, staring at the stars, wondering if someone else was coming. Solari approached slowly, holding something in her hand, a silver pendant shaped like a spiral. It shimmered softly in the wazi. Light. This is called a binding mark, she said, offering it to him. It connects one mind to another, stronger than any data link. It's only used once, and never broken. Reel didn't take it. What happens if I say no? He asked Dot. She looked down. Then the bond fails. The ship sees it as a weakness. And we both lose control of the core. It locks us out. What happens after that? We drift, she said quietly. And eventually we run out of air. He stared at the pendant. So it's not just a choice. It's a test. Solari shook her head. It's both. A silence passed between them. Heavy, filled with everything unsaid. Real finally spoke. Uvayari made a mistake sending only 2 people out here. You expected control, calculation, logic. But emotions aren't built that way, she nodded. We thought pairing with humans would give us access to your passion. But we didn't expect to feel it. Real gave a soft laugh. No one ever does. Suddenly, the ship shuddered, not from outside, but from within. A system failure alert appeared on the screen. Warning, neural sync unstable. Bond not confirmed. System override in progress. Solari moved quickly to the console. No, it's too soon. It's forcing a decision. What's happening? Real asked. The core believes we failed the trial, she said. It's preparing to purge both of us. Purge? It's part of the original mission failsafe, she said, eyes wide with panic. If emotional instability is detected, the ship shuts down all systems, including life support. Real cursed under his breath. What do we do? Solari looked at the pendant still in her hand. We make the bond. Or we die. He took a deep breath. Then, without a word, he reached out and touched the pendant. It flashed. Not just light, but warmth. A pulse passed through both of them, like a heartbeat connecting 2 souls. The bridge filled with soft blue energy as the ship reacted. The I voice returned. Neural pairing confirmed. Emotional signature match, 97%. Primary bond locked. Solari stared at him wide-eyed. You did it. No, Real said. We did. The ship systems came back online. Lights stabilized. Air filters resumed their steady hum. But something new had awakened. A faint humming beneath their feet. The core had changed. Real felt it, not in his ears, but in his chest. A new connection, like a quiet voice he hadn't noticed before. Not Solari's voice, but the ship's. His emotions flowed into it. And it responded. I can feel the ship, he whispered. It's alive, Solari nodded. It's listening now, to both of us. But it needs us to stay balanced. Meaning? If either of us breaks, the bond breaks, and the ship follows. Before they could speak further, a new warning flashed on screen. But this time, it wasn't from the ship. It was a long-range communication from Earth Command. Real quickly tapped in the secure channel. A voice crackled through. Commander. Real, your signal was lost for 17 hours. We tracked energy discharges in your last coordinates. Report status. He hesitated. Solari stood close, her eyes searching his. Real pressed the button. Mission ongoing. Experimental vessel stable. Situation under control. Do you require extraction? He looked at Solari again, then back at the screen. Negative. Continuing mission. Send no further ships. A long pause. Understood, Commander. Awaiting your full report. The signal ended. Real stepped back, running a hand through his hair. He had just cut them off for her. Solari moved beside him. You didn't have to do that. I know, he said. But I wanted to. Why? He looked at her long and hard. Because they would have taken this ship, taken you. Called it failure, like they always do, and for once. I want to see what happens when we decide the outcome. She blinked. Stunned. You believe in this bond now? I believe in what we've become, he said. She smiled. Stepping forward. Then suddenly, the ship lights flickered once more. Not red this time, but violet. Real tensed. What now? Solari turned to the screen. Another signal had arrived, but this one wasn't from Earth. It was from a deep sector of uncharted space. Coordinates. A message. Only one word in ancient Viari script. Home. The stars ahead shimmered like tiny eyes, watching, waiting. The ship moved slowly now, not because of damage, but because of decision. It approached the final destination, given by the mysterious signal. Real stood near the front viewport, arms crossed, watching the darkness peel back. Solari sat behind him, silent. eyes on the slowly forming outline of a distant structure, a black ring orbiting a dead moon. The coordinates had led them here, to something hidden, something old. That's not on any chart, Reel said. It shouldn't be, Solari whispered. That's a Vayari archive station, pre-fall era. Before our race changed. Before we shut out emotions and relied on control. Reel narrowed his eyes. And now it's calling to us? Not to us, she said softly. To you. The ship moved closer. A docking port opened without being asked. The ship's I voice echoed calmly. Archive gate recognizes bonded pair. Entry permitted. Final test initiated. Reel turned around. Final test. Solari stood. The Vayari believed that only a perfect bond, unshaken by fear, pride, or lies, could awaken what was buried here. They built this place to test love. Reel raised a brow. You're serious? She smiled faintly. Your people say love is powerful. We never believed it. Until now, he nodded. Then let's see what your ancestors were so afraid of. They entered the station. Inside, the air was still, untouched by time. The walls pulsed gently with a strange silver light. At the center of the round chamber stood a pedestal with a clear orb on top, floating mid-air. As they approached, the orb responded. It split open, revealing two metal cuffs, each shaped to fit a wrist. The bond cuffs, Solari said. Once worn, they link not just thought and emotion, but memory. Every truth, every secret, no lies survive it. Reel stared at the cuffs. So if I wear this, you'll see everything I've ever been? Yes, she said. And I'll let you see everything I am. He hesitated. What if she saw his regrets, his failures? The times he walked away instead of standing his ground. But then he looked into her eyes and saw her fear, her bravery, her hope. He reached forward and took one cuff. She took the other. Together, they locked them onto their wrists. The moment the cuffs clicked, a wave of light burst from the orb, washing over them. And everything changed. Reel felt it first, her memories, not as images, but as feelings. Her loneliness as a child, her envy of her emotionless peers. The moment she was told she was special, not because she was strong, but because she was different, a tool. Then, the first time she saw him, how her breath caught in her throat, how she fought the attraction, the fear that he might reject her, how she watched him quietly every night while he was sleeping, asking herself, could I really choose a human? Then, he felt his own memories unlock, and she saw them too. His brother's accident, his years in silence after war, the loss, the missions he completed because no one else would. And the moment he stepped on her ship, suspicious, guarded, yet strangely drawn to her, the bond between them became real, not because the system said so, but because they said so. They opened their eyes at the same time, tears in both. Thought I knew you, Solari whispered. And now you do, he said softly. The chamber changed. A new door opened in the wall behind the orb, light pouring from it. They stepped through together. Inside was not machinery, but something living. A large crystalline tree, grown in the shape of an eye, its center pulsing with quiet power. The ship's voice echoed faintly in their minds. This is the Vayari core, hidden for millennia, waiting for one truth, that unity is not logic, unity is love. Solari fell to her knees. All this time, we thought strength meant silence, control, coldness, but the old ones knew. Reel stood beside her, and they waited for someone like us. The core shimmered. A single crystal detached and floated toward them, hovering in Reel's hand. What is it? He asked. Solari touched it. A seed. To grow a new bond, a ship, a home, maybe even a future. Reel closed his hand around it. They walked out of the station in silence, cuff still glowing. Back on their ship, the AI asked. Destination? Real looked at Solari. She smiled. Anywhere, as long as it's with you. He nodded. Then let's start with home. But not mine, ours. As the ship vanished into the stars, two hearts, once strangers, now beat as one, and the galaxy would never be the same.